Welcome back, guys. So, the new 107 Vincent Kompany dropped today, and honestly, this card looks absolutely ridiculous. 98 defensive awareness, 100 tackling, 99 aggression, 96 physical contact, long reach tackle, and aerial fort. Konami clearly didn't come to play with this card, but there's one problem. Not everyone is going to get him. Some players simply don't have enough coins. Some players are saving for future packs, and some free-to-play players just can't afford to spend hundreds or even thousands of coins chasing a single defender. So the big question is this: if you can't afford the new 107 rated Vincent Kompany, is there a free alternative that can give you a similar experience? Honestly, I think there is, and that player is Daniel Van Buyten. Now, before people start typing, "There's no way a free card can replace Kompany," hear me out. I'm not saying Van Buyten is better. He isn't. Kompany is clearly the superior card. But what I am saying is that Van Buyten offers many of the same qualities that make Kompany so appealing in the first place. Let's start with the playstyle. Both cards are destroyers. This is important because playstyle matters a lot in eFootball. Destroyers are aggressive defenders. They step out of the defensive line, pressure attackers, and constantly look to win the ball back early. If you enjoy using aggressive center backs, both Kompany and Van Buyten fit that profile perfectly. Then we look at the defensive stats. Van Buyten has 94 defensive awareness, 94 defensive engagement, and 95 tackling. Honestly, for a free defender, those numbers are excellent. Yes, Kompany is better. He has 98 defensive awareness, 95 defensive engagement, and a ridiculous 100 tackling. But let's be honest, once you're already in the mid-90s, the difference becomes much smaller in actual gameplay than many people expect. Van Buyten will still position himself well. He'll still make interceptions. He'll still win tackles consistently. The biggest difference is consistency. Kompany will simply do these things at an elite level more often. But Van Buyten isn't far behind. Now let's talk about physicality, because this is where things get really interesting. Kompany has 96 physical contact. That's incredible. But Van Buyten has 90 physical contact while standing at an unbelievable 197 centimeters tall. Let me repeat that. 197 centimeters. That's taller than Kompany. In fact, Van Buyten is one of the tallest defenders in the entire game. And in eFootball, height matters. A lot. Especially when you're dealing with long balls, aerial duels, and crosses into the box. Van Buyten also has 90 jump and 87 heading. Those are very respectable numbers. Kompany is still superior with 93 jump and 90 heading, especially because he also has aerial fort. But don't underestimate Van Buyten in the air. At 197 centimeters, this card is an absolute giant. Most strikers are going to struggle against him aerially. Then we move to pace. This is actually closer than many people realize. Kompany has 86 speed and 79 acceleration. Van Buyten has 83 speed and 83 acceleration. Honestly, that's very interesting. Kompany is faster overall, but Van Buyten actually has better acceleration. That means Van Buyten might feel slightly quicker over short distances when reacting to danger. Neither card is exceptionally fast by modern eFootball standards, but both have enough pace to survive in the current meta if positioned correctly. Now let's address the biggest difference between these two cards. Aggression. Van Buyten has 88 aggression. Kompany has 99. That's a massive gap. Kompany is going to be much more aggressive when challenging attackers and winning the ball. He'll constantly pressure opponents and make life extremely uncomfortable for strikers. Van Buyten is still aggressive enough, but he won't dominate games defensively in the same way Kompany potentially can. Then we have the skills. This is probably where Kompany creates the biggest separation. Long reach tackle is one of the best defensive skills in eFootball. It allows defenders to win challenges from positions where other defenders simply can't reach. Aerial fort is also an amazing addition, because it makes Kompany even stronger in aerial battles. Van Buyten doesn't have those premium defensive skills, and that definitely hurts him in this comparison. But here's the thing, Van Buyten is free. Completely free. And when you remember that, the comparison suddenly becomes much more impressive, because you're essentially getting a giant 197 centimeter destroyer with 94 defensive awareness, 95 tackling, 90 physical contact, and excellent aerial ability without spending any coins. That's incredible value. So, should free-to-play players panic if they can't get Kompany? Honestly, no. Kompany absolutely looks like one of the best defenders in the game. There's no denying that. If you have the coins and you desperately need a top-tier center back, then he looks worth considering. But if you already have Daniel Van Buyten in your squad, I don't think you should feel pressured to chase Kompany immediately. Van Buyten can still compete. He can still dominate physically, he can still win aerial duels, and he can still defend at a very high level. Will Kompany be better? Absolutely. Will he be 4 ratings better in actual gameplay? I'm not completely convinced, because one thing we've learned in eFootball is that stats aren't everything. Height, playstyle, positioning, and player feel often matter just as much, and Van Buyten has many of the qualities that make defenders effective in the current meta. So what's the final verdict? If you can afford Vincent Kompany, he looks incredible and will probably become one of the best center backs in eFootball. But if you can't afford him, don't panic. Daniel Van Buyten remains one of the best free defensive alternatives available. He's tall, strong, dominant in the air, and defensively excellent. And honestly, for a free card, that's all you can really ask for. Now I want to hear from you guys. Tell me in the comments which free defenders you currently have in your squad. Whether it's Van Buyten, Rudiger, Saliba, Schlotterbeck, or someone else, let me know. I'll personally tell you whether I think you should go for the new Kompany or save your coins for something else.